I'm Romulo Emmanuel, Miral Jr., Jun Miral for short. I'm the Director General of the Congressional Policy and Budget Research Department of the House of Representatives. Basically, the national government collects most of the revenues and taxes of the whole government sector. The national government accounts for around 92% of the total tax and revenue collection, and it then allocates these funds to the different programs and projects across the country, so that the local government units, including the regional government and the regional administrative units, depends on the national government for funds. And our Constitution provides that the local territories and the local government unit should enjoy local autonomy. And that's really the concept of block grants in relation to the promotion of local autonomy. Because in the case of a block grant, or sometimes referred to as a general purpose grant, it delegates to the recipient the decision on how to appropriate or how to allocate or how to use those funds in comparison to specific purpose transfers or specific grants, wherein the source or the national government identifies the programs and projects to be funded by these funds that they transfers to the local units. The block grant, as provided for in the Bangsamoro Basic Law or the Bangsamoro Organic Law, is very similar to the internal revenue allotment provided to the local government units. The internal revenue allotment to local government units actually, at present, is automatically appropriated. It doesn't need to be approved every year by Congress. And the internal revenue allotment is also comprehensively released to the local government unit in the same way as the block grant, as provided for in the Bangsamoro Organic Law, is comprehensively released without any actions required from the regional government or from the Bangsamoro government. So it depends on now it again provides the regional government with the authority to use it, but it makes the fund readily available to them. But it doesn't mean that they can just spend, that the regional government or the local government unit can just spend once it is released to them. In fact, as provided for in the Constitution, and this is again repeated in the Bangsamoro Organic Law, that all uses of funds would require an appropriation passed by Congress, which details the use or the purpose of these expenditures. And so the use of the block grant will depend on an appropriations law passed by the Regional Legislative Assembly, or in the case of the Bangsamoro Parliament. In the previous arrangement, the autonomous autonomous region for Muslim Mindanao is supposed to be autonomous, as the name implies, but they say that there cannot be no genuine autonomy without fiscal autonomy, and the autonomous region was like other sub-national government units are very dependent on the national government for funds. So before, the ARMM used to be like any national government agency, which proposes or applies for funds from the national government. And so they submit a budget proposal to the Department of Budget and Management, which is subjected to technical review by the DBM. Then the budget of the ARM is incorporated in the budget of the President that is submitted to Congress. And Congress reviews the different budget proposals, including the budget proposal of the ARMM. So before, actually the elected officials of the ARMM go to the Department of Budget and Management to defend their budget, and then goes to the House of Representatives and the Senate during budget hearing in Congress, again to defend their budget. And so, unlike the local government units, which don't have to go to the national government to defend their budget, they just receive automatically their internal revenue allotment, and the local executive prepares the budget of the local government unit and submits it to its local sanggunian. In the case of ARMM, it has its regional legislative assembly, but instead of the regional legislative assembly passing an appropriation ordinance or an appropriation law, here it's really the national government that somehow decides the budget of the ARMM. Because before, the whole budget that goes, or the whole funds that goes to the autonomous region, actually around 48% of that comes from the appropriation coming from the national government. So 48% of the total budget or total funds that goes to the region is actually reviewed and deliberated at the national level. The other major chunk of the budget or funds that goes to the region is actually through the local government units, the internal revenue allotment of the local government units. And this around, again, another 48% of the total fund that goes to the region. And the local government units, through their sanggunian, are the one who pass the appropriation ordinance. In the case of ARMM, the regional legislative assembly is only accountable for or has power over 2% of the total funds that is spent in the region. That pertains to the local taxes and funds collected in the region, plus its shares in the national revenues and taxes collected within the region. So you can see that the regional legislative assembly, which is supposed to have the power of the purse, basically has very limited control over the budget that is used in the region. It has been recognized that participatory budgeting allows for a more responsive government, allows programs and projects to be responsive to the needs of the people. So, in fact, the budgeting process actually starts with the planning process, and even in the planning process, it provides for citizen participation, like in the different development councils, so that the citizenry or this civil society organization can be involved in the planning preparation, because after all, it's really the basis of budgeting. The plan allows you to prioritize the programs and projects that is needed by the constituents that will also develop the area. So, one, involvement in the planning process, and secondly, involvement in the budgeting itself. I think in the previous administration, there's this emphasis on bottoms-up budgeting, which actually encourages citizen participation in the budget deliberation, but or more on the budget preparation. But in addition to being involved in being able to voice out their needs, the citizenry can also be involved in overseeing the implementation of the budget. And this would require actually for the government concerned, the government unit concerned, to prepare reports that would readily be understandable by the citizenry. And that's why there's all these reforms about performance-informed based budgeting, wherein in addition to the items of expenditures, it also provides for what do we expect in the expenditure of government funds. So the budget identifies outputs and performance indicators that can be expected from government spending. In this way, the people can be informed on what are the things they would the things that they can expect from the government expenditures. While the block grant is comprehensively released to the regional government or to the Bangsamoro government, it cannot use the fund unless it comes up with an appropriation law. An appropriations law that is passed by the Bangsamoro Parliament. And before coming up with this appropriation law, there are actually other preparatory activities. Like in the national government and the other local government units, it requires the formulation of development plans, long-term, medium-term, short-term development plans. And in relation with these development plans, there are development investment program. In the case of the region, there are the Regional Development Investment Program. In the case of the local government units, provinces and cities, there's also the Local Investment Program. And this medium-term to long-term local investment programs identifies the different programs and projects that will meet the goals and objectives of the development plan. And a piece of this development investment program is the annual investment program. And this annual investment program again identifies the programs and projects that are critical in achieving the goals of the development plan. So those are the things that have to be prepared. In fact, even in the old ARMM, they have these requirements or process. And this process are actually observed in all units of government, from the national to the local government units. So again, preparation of the development plan, and from the development plan, the annual investment program, and from there you can prepare the budget, and that budget needs to be passed by the Bangsamoro Parliament in order to become an appropriations law, and that appropriations law will serve as the basis for the expenditures of the block grant. Of course, during the execution of the budget itself, there are several mechanisms by which the judiciary accountability can be promoted, and this is in the form of the submission of different reports, budget execution reports, budget and financial accountability reports. And these are all needed in order to promote transparency as well as accountability in the use of the funds.